A lot of you recently might be wondering how on earth DRX has already qualified for playoffs, or how EDG already is in the Champions Zone after doing the same thing. Better yet, how has teams like Bleed Esports already been eliminated, all within one season of Split 2 beginning? Well, here I am to give you a deep rundown on how the season actually works, going through the different splits, championship standings, and how it culminates into international appearances for all your favorite teams. I didn't really expect myself to make a video like this, but due to many of you being confused on how the standing works, I decided to make a video straightening things out in order for you to stop using your brain from overloading, and instead by watching brain rotting plays like this.
Sheriff, and what? Okay! Well.
Yes, this actually happened in a professional Valorant match. Also, I will be improving the format itself, as while Riot did well in trying to create a format that would work for everyone, they kind of overcooked with this one. But I do not blame them, as it's really hard to create a format that is consistent with 11 teams. But not only is the current split confusing, but it might lead to a lot of casual fans not really paying attention to these leagues, and that's not good for the Valorant ecosystem. By the way, if you like these types of videos, please consider subscribing. It's free, helps the channel a ton, and you can always unsubscribe. Enjoy! Let's begin by explaining how each of the individual splits work in tandem with one another, as despite what it may seem, they are more connected than you might think, despite being called Split 1 and Split 2. All 11 teams are placed into two groups, Group Alpha and Group Omega. You might notice, hey, there's an odd amount of teams in the league. That can't be fair, right? Well, Riot has you covered, as each team will be playing everyone in the opposing group in Split 1 before fighting each other in their own group in Split 2. The top teams from both Alpha and Omega groups automatically get a bye into the first round into the playoffs, while the other two teams are to face each other beforehand in a single elimination format, and that is based on how many games you'll win for the split. There is also the inclusion of championship points. Each game of the season counts for one championship point, which includes playoff games as well, which culminates into an overall championship standing for all the 11 teams this season. There are other ways for teams to get these points as well. For example, by winning an event like Masters Madrid, Stage 1 or Kickoff, our team guarantees themselves 3 additional points, which adds up over time. This is to encourage winning, and is for the 4th slot of champions, as if a team does not make it through champions through the Stage 2 playoffs, either by having a bad match on the day or by simply feeling unwell, they are still able to qualify based on how consistent they've been throughout the entire split. But how has DRX already qualified for playoffs even though they've played only one game of Split 2? Well, that's because both split are actually combined into a singular scoreboard, in which whatever happens to Split 1 carries over to Split 2. In order to reward teams that has been good all season, this does not use the point system, but instead uses the win-loss record of each team. But this format, in my opinion, is terrible. The main reason why this format is bad because teams like NRG, T1 and EG all have retooled their rosters during international events, yet the results of their previous split might cause them to lose out on participating into playoffs, despite them winning most if not all their games for Split 2. T1 went to Master Shanghai, yet you're telling me that they won't be able to make it to playoffs? They almost have the same record as Bleed, yet they were able to pull off a miracle run into playoffs to make it to Shanghai over DRX. While this current format rewards consistency, it has substituted it by putting down teams that are consistently trying to make an active effort to improve their roster during the break between Stage 1 and Stage 2, and might make teams give up halfway throughout the split and not put in any effort, causing the league to be uncompetitive and straight up boring. Bad teams aren't being incentivized to improve or make any roster changes because what is the point? As a team, my chances to have any playoff success or international success, let alone rely on my team to be near perfect for the rest of the split, which for a team with a brand new roster or are trying out new agent compositions is obviously going to have some hiccups. As a team owner, I'm better off using the rest of the split resting and watching other teams go for the goal instead of actually competing for a playoff spot where I nearly have no chance of getting in. Hence, you see the current problem with the VCT format. Now, what can we do to improve this? Let's start with the obvious thing, making both Split 1 and Split 2 independent. By making each split an individual tournament, it allows teams to start fresh instead of being penalized for having a disastrous start to the season, and creates the opportunity for them to recompete in the season, instead of being eliminated straight off the start of the first game. It also rewards teams that either retool their strategies completely or revamp their roster by either getting a new player or new coaches during the break between Stage 1 and Masters, and creates a competitive environment overall. This also prevents sandbagging from the teams that are doing well, as for example, if you are DRX that went 6-0 and has already secured playoffs, you are bound to sandbag and try out new tactics and composition, which might make the standings a bit wonky in the end. You might be asking, what about the teams that were consistently good however? Don't they deserve to be rewarded as well due to how well they've been playing on a frequency basis? Well, that's where championship points came in. The 4th slot of champions will solely be based on how well a team does during the split, and it's a completely isolated metric from both Split 1 and Split 2. By isolating championship points, it rewards the most consistent team and allows them to partake in champions while making sure that the teams aren't affected by the same metric. Now, another idea is that instead of having the top 3 teams in playoffs going to champions and 1 team based on championship points, Riot could change it where the top 2 teams, aka the grand finalists, secure their spot into champions, while the top 2 teams based on championship points will qualify to champions as well. This creates a more exciting lower bracket final, as the best of 5 would decide who will qualify for champions while still rewarding consistency. I agree that being consistent is a good thing, especially in Valorant, where new maps and agents are released on a frequent basis, especially with the new map Abyss coming out into playoffs. However, the current VCT format rewards it in an abundance compared to the way they reward players based on improvement. The new format I created would help make the playing field more even in both rewarding consistency and improvement as well. Next up would be the spacing between international splits and their national splits. It's pretty obvious that the spacing between the return of Split 2 and Masters Shanghai is abysmal to say the least, as all teams get less than 5 days of break before returning to Split 2. It feels like more of a penalty for a team that, while yes made it to an international event, had no chance or reason. Tell me, do you really expect DRG and T1 to win Masters Shanghai? I don't really think so. The teams that attended Masters were also forced to play after 5 days. All 12 of these teams will obviously be jet-lagged, first off, but also spend their entire playbook and strategies in order to win a Masters event, in which only Genji actually did it. The teams that didn't make it to an international tournament had over 4 to 5 weeks to not only prepare, but watch the Shanghai teams lay out their cards and strategies in full view for them to not only duplicate but also anti-strat against them. By giving teams an extra week each split to rest, it allows them to recuperate and regenerate their thoughts and ideas and harness them into the new patch update, and allows them to give them a break between the 2 splits. And these are the changes that I will make for the following 2025 season. Let me know in the comments what changes will you make in the 2025 season, be it more teams from Ascension or something else related to it. Also, if you do want to know my takes on certain topics and discussion, I do have a Twitter account, or X if you want to not show how boomer you are, so you can follow me there for all my hot takes and my stupid tweets.